Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Denise Yezbak Moore. Today I'm going to be freestyling it, which means I don't have a design pre-planned. I picked out some beads and we are going to create wire-wrapped earrings today. The tools and supplies I'm using today are Lindstrom wire cutters, 2 chain nose pliers, round nose pliers. This is 24 gauge gold filled wire. You will need some head pins. These are gold filled, so they're very fine. I think they call these pearl head pins, but since I'm using these semi-precious beads, I decided to use a smaller gauge wire head pin. You will need ear wires, and I may include some of these little bead caps. We are going to start off by picking up a head pin, and these are Amazonite nuggets, and we're going to string that down. And now we are going to form a wrapped loop. So using our round nose pliers, we're going to bend that wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, and bend the wire back. And I'm switching hands, grabbing my chain nose pliers. I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, and this one I think can go a little bit further. So we're going to go 3.5, 4. Coming over to the other side. We're going to come in. We're going to trim that end. You always want to make sure that you flatten this little wire down so there are no sharp edges. Straightening that loop. And there is our wrapped loop. Now we're going to use our 24 gauge wire. And I'm going to cut about 2.5 inches. And using our round nose pliers, we're going to come right about there. We're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards you, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back, and then I'm going to flip hands, and we are going to wrap 1, 2, 3, maybe go a little bit further, right about there, and then we're going to take it off. We're going to trim off that little end, and we're going to flatten out our loop, and we're just going to come over and tap those wires down. Now we're going to pick up, let's try the bead caps. This wire these holes in these bead caps might be too big, and I'm thinking they are, but since we're freestyling it, yep, they're too big, so we're not going to use the bead caps. So this is a dyed moonstone faceted rondelle. We're just going to string that down, and we're going to form a partial wrapped loop. So our wire loop is facing this way, so we want our pliers facing the same way. So we're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up. We're bending the wire towards us, moving the pliers to the side. We're bending the wire back. And this is a partial wrap loop. And you do this so that you can connect. So now we're going to grab and we're going to connect. And we're going to hold it with our round nose pliers right about there. And we're going to flip hands. And then using our chain nose pliers, we're going to come over and we're going to wrap 1, 2, 3, and this one's probably going to be a 4. 4. So we'll remove that. And we're going to come over, trim that little end off, and then we're going to come back in and straighten our loop. Tuck that little wire down. And this is the beginning of our earring. Okay, so we're going to form the wrap loop one more time. So I'm trimming off the end of my wire, 2.5 to 3 inches. I tend to use a little bit longer wire because it's easier for me to wrap, and I think the wraps come out better. But I know, like, this is gold-filled wire. It's more expensive, so we try to save where we can on wire. So we're going to place it right about there. We're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back, and then we are going to wrap 1, 2, and let's about 3.5. We're going to trim off that little end. We're going to flatten our loop and tuck that little wire down. Now this is a faceted carnelian. I think it has a mystic coating on it. So we went ahead and strung our bead, and now we're going to make our partially wrapped loop again. And our loop is facing this way, right about there. We're going to bend the wire down, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards you, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back. I'm coming in and I'm looking at it, and I'm going to remove it because it's a partial wrap loop. And I'm going to attach it. Whoops. Grab my round nose pliers, and I'm switching hands. And with our chain nose pliers, we are going to wrap 1, 2, 3, and a half. We're going to come back over. We're going to trim that little end. We're going to tuck our wire down and flatten our loop. And now all we need to do is connect our ear wire. So I picked up my ear wire. This ear wire opens. So we're going to open it just like a jump ring. We're just moving it towards the side. And then we're going to grab our little dangle. I'm going to come back in. And we are going to close it. I'm going to create the second earring now. I really wish those bead caps would have fit on this wire, but I wanted the earrings to look dainty. The thinner the wire, the daintier the design will look. So let's see. We're going to grab our head pin again and come over. And we're going to string our Amazonite and grab our round nose pliers. We're going to form a wrapped loop. We bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back, come in and line it up. We're going to grab that wire. We're going to wrap 1, 2, whoops, 3. Take it off. Come over to the side. Trim that little end. Flatten out that loop. You know, what's interesting about these wrap loops is that when I first decided to create jewelry, I found this little pearl bracelet, and it was created with wrap loops just like these. And I was fascinated by how they were able to wrap that wire. So my whole goal was to learn how to create a pearl bracelet like this. And I've taken one class in my life, and it was from a little bead store owner. And that's how I learned to create wrapped loops. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our 24 gauge wire. And we're going to cut it. We're going to pick up our round nose pliers. And we're going to make our wrap loop. We're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards you, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back, and we're going to wrap 1, 2, 3, and we'll go and a half. We're going to come back in, trim that little end. We're going to flatten out our loop. Make sure that wire is tucked. Do you see how the wire's a little bent? If you come back in right here and just move it up, it'll move up the wire. So let's come back in, trim that end. Okay, now we're going to string our dyed moonstone, and we're going to form the partial wrapped loop. We're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, bend that wire back, come around. We're going to take it off, grab our other earring, and we're just holding it right there with our round nose pliers, and now we're going to make the wrap. 1, 2, 3, and this one is going to be 4. Come back over, trim that little end. We're tucking the wire down so there's no sharp edges. And then we're going to flatten out that loop. And now we have one more to make. We're going to trim that end. Placing our pliers right there. We're going to bend the wire back, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back, switch hands, whoop, and wrap. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going a little bit, 3.5. We're going to trim off that little end, flip it around, flatten that loop, tuck that little end down, picking up our Mystic Carnelian bead, faceted rondelle. We're going to form our partial wrapped loop. The pliers are facing this way because the loop is this way. And we're going to bend the wire down, move the pliers up, bend the wire towards us, move the pliers to the side, bend the wire back. You see how I just kind of moved it a little bit? We're going to take it off. We're going to attach it to the earring. And then I'm holding it, switching hands. And we are going to wrap 1, 2, 3. And it's going to be a half again since this wire is so small. We're going to trim that end. Flip it around. We're going to make sure that wire is tucked. Flatten the loop. And now we're going to attach our ear wire. We're just going to open that, attach it, and close the loop. So there's a super tiny little gap right there, but since the wire is so thin, I want to make sure that it's closed. So I'm just kind of moving it side to side and moving it forward. And do you see how that gap closed? And then that way the earring won't slip off. And there you have it, how to create wire wrapped earrings. You could also use this method to create a wire wrap bracelet. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe and hit the little bell to receive notifications on when I post new videos. I love comments and feedback. If you leave a comment, I reply to everybody's comment. Follow me on Instagram at Denise Yezbak Moore, and I will see you next time.